There's 1,000 acres of property in Warren County that has an extremely interesting history. It involves a multimillionaire, some magnificent farm buildings, and a cherished fishing stream.
It no longer looks like it did in its heyday, but one man is keeping alive all the glorious stories from the past. John Last paid a visit in this edition of The Last Word.
There are so many fascinating properties in northwestern Pennsylvania that have a fascinating history, and I'm standing on one such property. I'm just outside the Warren County community of Spring Creek, and this is the old Clough farm. The thing that grabs your attention as you approach the old farm is the size of these rundown, neglected, and vacated barns. You can't help but wonder how magnificent these structures were when they were built in the early 1900s. Thank goodness there are photographs. This barn was built in 1906. This one was built in 1913, as was this milking house. They were built by Levi Clough. He was a timberman who decided to add dairy farming to his business empire. John Wood is a former caretaker of the property and researched Levi Clough.
He obviously made a fortune in timber. From the old records that I've researched, I saw different enterprises he had.
John says Clough chose this particular property for his farm because of the trout stream that runs through it. It was his own private fishing spot. This guy rubbed shoulders with the Vanderbilts. If he wanted something, he got it.
In 1913, he got enamored with this Ayrshire breed of cattle and sent to Scotland. They bought 20 of the best cattle they could buy and one of the best bulls they could find in Scotland and Canada and brought them here.
You can still see the names of some of the dairy cows on the walls. This stall was for a cow named Lady Jane in 1917. This once was a beautiful, stately, and unique farm. However, Clough died in 1927. His family leased out the farm until 1970, when they sold it to the Carlisle family of the department store fame. John worked as caretaker for the Carlisles until the early 1990s. John says the family just let the barns deteriorate after he left.
Well, it's sad. It's sad. It's kind of hard for me.
John's love for the old farm is still with him. He cannot rebuild its glorious look. He does, however, give lectures about its glorious history.
Yeah. When I go by here in a car, my wife says, "Don't look." But I do. But yeah, it's sad. But the story's still there.
With the last word at the old Clough farm in Spring Creek, John Last, Erie News Now.
And the property is now owned by an organization from Bradford that hosts people for hunting and fishing parties. The farmland is leased out, but the magnificent old barns are not being used and they continue to fall apart.
Wow, so much history there. And John Wood, who our John Last talked with, said that his next lecture about the farm will be held in July, sponsored by the Corey Historical Society, and we'll have more details before it happens.